Okay, next, let's move on to the science talk, presented by Professor YURA. He's a professor of Natural Science Division, Faculty of Core Research. The talk title is Computational Biology for Entomology and Entomophagy. Professor Yura, please.
All right, thank you, Ayumi. I'm Kei Yura, the professor at the Department of Biology in Ochanomizu University. Now I'd like to talk about my recent research. Let me share some screens here. Let's see. Oh, sorry for the technical problems. And let me start my recent works in this university. And as you can see here, the title is... sorry, there's a problem in here again. I can't see this. Anyway, well, let's forget about it. The title is about the computational biology for entomology and entomophagy. And I think that most of you do not know the meaning of entomophagy, and I explained that in a slide here. So let us imagine the future of this Earth. In, say, 2050, we're going to have about 9 billion people in this world, and currently we have about 7 billion people on this world, which means that we're going to have more than 2 billion people in this world in 2050. The most important questions we have to answer is, or most important problems that we have to solve, is the food. So in 2050, we're going to face a food shortage or protein shortage, and we have to solve this. And as SDGs tells us that we have to prevent this situation, so SDGs said that in number 2 targets, they said that the zero hunger is going to be an important things to do in the future. So the easiest answer to solve this question is to increase the number of cows, increase the number of pigs, or increase the number of, let's say, chickens for food or for the protein source. But I think most of you know that this is not sustainable. For example, cow, they belch or they burp, and the amount of burp is not negligible. To increase 100 kilogram of proteins, they burp 114 gram, which means that increases the temperature of the Earth. The same things will happen in pigs too, so we cannot rely so much on cows or pigs. So we need alternative sources for food. And so what's going to be the alternative sources of food? So we believe insect is one of the alternatives for the foods. As I showed you in this slide, the insect, this is cricket actually, it just get out a greenhouse gas about 0.09 gram per 1 kilograms of proteins. So we can just easily compare these two, and we can find that cricket is much more efficient than cows or pigs. So in my group, we are seriously thinking about increasing the crickets as a food source in the future of the Earth. So actually, we are not the only persons thinking about these things, and many people are thinking about the same thing here. As I showed you in this slide, the entomophagy, which means eat insects, that movement is increasing in the worldwide. So worldwide demand of entomophagy, as I show you here a lot. In the European Union, 30% of the population thinks that the entomophagy is going to be important. And if you look at the market of the food industry, we can find a huge amount of markets, a huge size of the markets in 2025 or 2030. So we have a huge market of the insect or entomophagy. And as you may all know, that insect market for food in Southeast Asia is still rising in this year or maybe next year. There are many people. If you visit the market in Southeast Asia, you may find many insect markets, or like this photos here. So we have a worldwide demand of entomophagy. If we focus on Japan, entomophagy in Japan, nowadays we have cricket cracker, which is produced by Grillas, which is a venture business of Tokushima University, actually, which is one of my collaborators. So they are making a cricket cracker to advance the entomophagy, or eat insect. The second photo here is the photo of Ant Cicada, which is the entomophagy restaurant in Tokyo. And that restaurant provides a ramen here, cricket ramen in Ant Cicada. The soup, as well as the noodle, is based on cricket powder. So there are lots of movement of the entomophagy here. So what's the question that the basic scientists like me should face? So do we have sustainable supply of crickets? Nowadays, we just find crickets in the wild and collect crickets and make it into the powder. And that's not sufficient to sustain the future Earth. So we need a sustainable supply route for the crickets. The second question is it tasty? Do we have tasty crickets? Actually, the crickets now is not that tasty. It can be the protein source, yeah, but it cannot be a tasty protein source. We need a tasty crickets. Can we make a tasty cricket based on basic science? And then the last question here, of course there are many questions, but the last question here is efficient production. Do we have efficient production line of crickets? Actually, there are many problems if you try to breed the crickets, so there should be a very efficient production line. So can we make it? In other words, can we make a cricket breeding system, or can we make a livestock out of cricket? Can we domesticate the crickets? That's the questions that the basic scientists should answer. So if we can do that, here we have the first insect that the human domesticated was bees, and the second one is a silkworm, and we're trying to make the third one crickets. The another type of questions that we have to answer is a society. Do we have a society that accepts entomophagies? I think many people in Zoom now think that, no, I don't like insects. It's sort of creepy. But do we have really a society that accepts entomophagy? And this is a social movement that we have to make. So for all those reasons, I'm starting a project. The title of a project is Insect-Based Sustainable Food Production Systems Toward Global Food Security and Human Space Exploration Project. Well, the latter half, forget about it. I'm going to focus on the first half here. So this is about the project based on the Cabinet Office in Japan, and we are trying to make a new crickets that can sustain the human life in the future. And this is, of course, not done by the Ochanomizu University alone. It's based on, we are in a group of 10 institutes located here, and Ochanomizu University is top of those in this group. If you're interested in this project, you can visit the website here, which is ifcube.moonshot.org.en. So the project is separated into these 6 groups: insect genome, insect breeding systems, insect for feeding, insect for food, breeding system in space, and social activity. Of course, I don't go down deep into the detail here, but in the combination of these 6 groups, we are going to achieve the aim that we're going to domesticate the crickets. Apparently, this is the interdisciplinary work. So we have to have lots of different disciplines when we have to combine these disciplines, like entomology, which is the study of insect, molecular biology, genome science, AI, genetic engineering, food science, material engineering, social science, social psychology, economy, agriculture, etc., etc. And all these things, of course, you cannot do it by alone, so we need collaborations and interdisciplinary works. So in Ochanomizu University, we are focusing on these 2 things in red and green: insect genome and insect for food. And I myself is focusing on this insect genome things. So let me explain the detail of the insect genome topics here. So questions that we have to ask specifically in insect genome is, which genes determine the size of the crickets? Which genes determine the lifespan of crickets? Or which genes determine the color of crickets? These questions are really important to domesticate the crickets. So we need a huge crickets, like this one. This is not the toy. This is a real one on your palm. And this is a biggest insect that we can find in the world. And actually, these are the smallest one. This is about 1 millimeter or 2 millimeters. So even in crickets, there are a variety of different in size. So the basic question the basic scientist will ask is, what makes, so how does it happen? They are all the same crickets. Why the size so different? Maybe we can answer this type of questions by genome analysis. Lifespan. Of course, we want to make it longer. The lifespan should be longer or maybe shorter to domesticate for the domesticated crickets. And the color. If you look at the present color of the crickets, it looks like a cutthroat, sorry. But if we can make it white, then it should be better. White crickets maybe looks tasty. So the colors. So the basic question is, which genes determine the color of the crickets? So for making for making a beneficial cricket stock or beneficial cricket livestock. So we determine the genome sequences of crickets, analyze functions of the genes, and predict the factors that determine all these things. And these are mostly computational works. So I myself never have done the experiments, biological experiments. I'm actually a computational scientist, so I just do the computations, and that's all I do. That's all I can do. So I just gather data and analyze the data, and based on these data, I predict the things, and then I give all the results to the wet lab experiment people and start the wet lab for verification. And then if every prediction is correct, we can pass the result to the food and feed industry, and we can start the new business, or we can start the new industries for sustain the future life. So these are results, the recent results. One of the results is we determined the genome sequence of Teleogurillus occipitalis, so one of the crickets, and we published the papers. Of course, this has also involved many students in here. If you join Ochanomizu University, you can be involved. You can be one of the members of these studies, of course. And this one is the determination of the mitochondria genome sequence of more than 10 crickets. So these are the crickets drawn by my colleagues. And as I mentioned, they're huge crickets or the small crickets. Maybe we can understand, analyzing these genes, the factors that determine the size difference of the crickets. So currently we're doing the gene annotation, which means that determine the gene sequence and determine the protein sequence here. And then based on these protein sequence things, we can understand the movement or the dynamics of the proteins. Apparently, the right-hand side here seems very odd, but actually this is the real movement of the proteins, which is directly connected to the function of the protein, and that determines the phenotype of the crickets. Another things that we are doing is the collaboration with the industry field, and actually we are making the real food based on the crickets. So here on the left side, we have a cricket powder. So this is the current state-of-the-art powder of the crickets. And then we can turn this cricket powder into cookies or curries or whatever we can eat. So these photos are provided by Grillas, a venture business launched by Tokushima University. And if you can access this website here, grillas.jp, you can buy this crunch or you can buy this curry if you want. So in this, even in this slide, there are lots of technology poured in, like a powdering technology. Powdering technology is a very sophisticated and advanced industry, and we need it to make the cricket into the powder. We need cooking technology, and this is one of the advanced part in this university, turn this powder into a tasty food. And mixing technology, of course, we have to mix to other things. And the fixing technology, which means we make it to the solid, something eatable things. So these new cooking methods should be developed by us too. So I think this is the last slide. So on our project, which is led by Ochanomizu University, we're doing the basic science. We're doing basic science to improve the crickets and change the crickets into the domesticated animals. And then we were trying to make a method to breed the crickets. So this part is done by the collaborators, not in Ochanomizu University, but we are working together to find the best method to breed the crickets. Based on the accumulated knowledge on 1 and 2, we are going to implement this to the food industry, And in the coming 2050, we're going to have a new protein source that can sustain the human lives on Earth. So Ochanomizu University contributes to the process above through biological and food science education and research. And if you're interested in this type of study, I think you can join to our university, and you can join to my lab or other labs and be part of this project. So this is all about my work and talks. And if you're interested in this type of work, you can have access to this website here, ifcube.moonshot.org, and you can have the update. All right, thank you, and that's all about it.